matter what time of the day, and we are so glad that you're joining us. Life gives us so many choices to make in our day, and we're grateful that you have chosen to make us a part of your day. My name is Rachel, and I'm here again to get us started with our new series, Full Thanks. Yeah, it's backwards, but don't worry, we knew that. We're in the middle of looking at our thanks tanks. Did you say that 5 times fast last week? I didn't. We are seeing if we're truly thankful or just participating in acting thankful because it's November. Because, well, that's what you're supposed to do this time of year, right? But if you're a human being, we tend to worry about things in life. Am I keeping up? Am I getting ahead? Can we pay our bills? Are my kids excelling? Is the country going to fall apart because my candidate's not president? I personally tend to worry about things like whether or not I'm pulling my weight at home while being a stay-at-home mom and wife. And in our honest moments, we can see that worry is just stealing from us, more like draining us of our thankfulness. Well, don't worry. We're going to talk about that today. So let's get started. Grab your coffee, curl up with your favorite blanket, or don't move at all. Let's get the drop on what's going on with Bridge Church.
Whoa, 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 yeah, we are in the place to be,
What's up? My name's Zach, and you're about to get the drop. They call me Leaf Man. Thanks for tuning in, but we really want to get to know you. Get signed up for a circle. If you don't have one, come to the Sunday Circle at 4 p.m. Sunday Circle. All of our info can be found on the website at the Circles tab. I got that one first try. Last time it took like 8 years. Coming up at the end of this month, we'll be having another prayer experience. Be listening in your circle on how to sign up. Dang it, dude. For more information, check out our Facebook page. Or head over to bridgedayton.com. Dayton. Ew. And now, here's my dad with part 2 of Full Thanks.
I wouldn't call myself a worrier. In fact, few things really make me worry in life. But those things, they really make me worry. And what I've come to notice is that those things are the things that are most important in my life. For instance, my sons. I have 2 boys. I worry about who they are becoming. I worry about what I've done to screw them up, right? What kind of adults are they going to be? What kind of world are they going to be living in? Will they adjust to the new world that is coming? Have I prepared them to be able to adjust? And that's just like one of my worries. I worry about my wife. I worry about Bridge Church. I worry about my city, Dayton, Ohio. And in all of these areas, I probably have 50 questions that I silently ask myself. And it's exhausting. And I generally don't realize that I'm drained until it's too late, and I've become a thankless, hopeless mess. Now, I think if you're breathing, you've got some sort of worry like me. Something that you think about, something that kind of bothers you. For some of you, it's the worry of this election, right? What's going to happen? You know, who's going to end up running the country? You even worry about like the future of the country. You maybe even worry similarly about your job. You know, where's your company going? Where are you going inside of the company? What if it all falls apart? I can't start over again. I'm too old for that. Or maybe it's your kids. You worry if you're parenting correctly, because there's no manual. You see your parents getting older maybe, and you wonder about their health and their longevity. You see you getting older, and maybe you have legitimate reason to worry about your own health or your spouse's health. There's bills that need to be paid, big decisions that need to be made, and ultimately, like something in our life that is sneakily draining our thanks tank, right? We talked about this, that well inside of us from where thankfulness springs up from. And listen, I could easily go to part of Jesus' most famous message, and I could say, can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? But most of us want to stop worrying. We just don't know how. Most of us know that it doesn't add to our life. So I thought we'd go another route today. Instead, I want to look at something that Paul said to the first century followers of Jesus who were trying to figure out, like, how do we live out what Jesus had said to us? Paul writes this letter to the new followers in a place called Ephesus. And apparently they were going through a lot because a lot of his writing to these people is about how to go through something hard, something that is peace-stealing, something that just causes natural worry in anyone's life. And here's what Paul says to them in Ephesians 5, starting in verse 15. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Now, with all this in mind, basically everything I've told you up until this point about going through hard things in life, be careful how you live. Be careful what you put your hope in. Be wise in what you let run your lives. And be aware of the potential that is there to crumble and to destroy you. And what is wise living? In this context, wise living is realizing that the decisions that I make today of what to trust will affect how I trust tomorrow. I've had many people over the years tell me about how they struggle to trust people. And as they tell me their stories, for many of them, not all of them, but for many of them, they tell me stories of situations where they've given trust to someone or to something, i.e. a company or an organization or a religion. That would be something. And that someone or something let them down. And looking back, they tell me about all of the signs that they missed, about all of the people who told them to pay attention, or about not having people in their lives to actually help them, about the feelings that they had, inside of themselves that they ignored and they just continued on anyways and ended up getting hurt. Now listen, I'm not naive. I realize that some of you have different stories. You've experienced this with people that you should have instinctively just been able to trust, whether it's parents or grandparents, people who were naturally in your lives that maybe adults told you that you could trust, or who you should have just lived up to the trust naturally given to them. And I know that this can injure your ability to trust. Just know, for me, I'm not really talking about you or to you right now. And listen, I'm sorry for the people who should have taken better care of you that didn't. But what we're talking about here are the decisions that we make as human beings to trust, to put our hope in someone or something that we never should have put it in. And really, it was because we weren't careful. We didn't live wisely. And that situation, or for many of us, those situations in our lives, they've left us feeling hopeless, not seeing much good in life, feeling a little thankless. Paul goes on in verse 16 and he says this, there's a reason why you need to be careful and live wisely, not unwisely, because when we do, we will make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. When we live carefully and wisely, we will see every day as an opportunity. Each day will be ripe with possibilities. And it's hard to see sometimes because, just naturally, and this has been going on for a long time, right? This isn't new. there is lots of evil in the world. So Paul says, don't miss out on an opportunity because of your unwise decision making, because evil is lurking everywhere. He even doubles down on this idea of wise living in verse 17. He says, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. It's weird that he writes this as like a command. It'd be like you telling me, I don't understand, and I would respond with, well, understand. Like you just need to understand. But what he's saying is this, he said all these previous things. He's told them what God is concerned about. In fact, earlier on in this letter in chapter 4, and I'll encourage you to go read this. I'm not going to go read all of it. If you're a Bible reader, read it for yourself. But for now, let me sum up what he said in chapter 4 this way. He said, God is more concerned with what is happening in you than what is happening to you, which is really unsettling to us. Yeah, that's great and all, God, but how about you pay attention to what's actually going on, in my life, what's happening to me? Can you see the swirl of uncertainty around me? Don't you care that life isn't going how I planned it? I wanted to be settled by this time in my life. I had planned to, be moved on by now. I should be starting my new job. I should be married with the kids that I have planned. The country is falling apart, God. If it's not my candidate for president, it's all just like going to go to hell, right? It's just going to fall completely apart. God, can't you see that I'm worried? And Paul says, understand. God sees all that, but he's more interested in what's happening in you rather than what's happening around you. He's more interested in what's changing in you than what's changing around you. He's more concerned with your heart than with your circumstances. But not only is that, not our normal setting, normally we try to drown out the circumstances that we don't like in life. So Paul takes, what looks like a really big left turn in verse 18, but really it's going along with the overall theme of his entire letter, and he tells us something that we know, but the way he writes it to his first century audience, it doesn't really click with us. He says, do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. And we read this and we just see don't get drunk, which isn't really bad advice, but this is so much more than just don't go get drunk. Overall, he's saying, don't try to drown out your hopelessness. And he's saying this is at a time in life that felt extremely hopeless to these people. Life was hard at this point in the first century. They didn't have safe water. They didn't have safety. Wine was the safe drink of the time, and really the only escape or entertainment that they had was wine, which made it really easy sometimes just to say, I'll drown out my sorrows in just one more cup of wine, which was leading somewhere. And we don't use this word debauchery very much in our culture, but we know it can be true. That sorrow drowning could very easily lead to just more problems and bigger sorrow through what you say or do when you don't really know what you're saying or doing. But let's be honest. This is more than alcohol or drugs, especially in our society. We've got so much more in our life now. We have lots of ways to drown out our sorrows, to indulge in life. I mean, just TV, right? We even call it binge watching now. A 24 hours news cycle that tells us that our worry is legitimate. Shopping, easily accessed on your phone at any time, delivered to your front door within a day or two. Eating, it's been not any easier to get food ever in life. Any type of food, any time of day, delivered to your door. So what's a guy or a girl supposed to do? He goes on, he says, instead of drowning out life, instead be filled with the Spirit. There's a spirit of life in each one of us, but this spirit he's talking about is the Spirit of God that can bring out a more rich and full life in us. And Paul says, let the Spirit of God be what fills you. Don't try to drown out life, filling yourself with whatever it is that distracts you, from life. When you feel hopeless, let the Spirit of God fill you with hope. And then he tells us in verses 19 and 20 how that happens. He says, speaking to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit. He tells the people in Ephesus and to us today, and listen, let's be honest, we need this reminder, right? He says, pay attention how you talk to each other. Make sure you're putting hope into each other. He gives us a responsibility to each other in life. He says, make sure you encourage each other to remain hopeful. When all seems lost, pay attention to each other. Point each other back to the good. And sing and make music from your heart to the Lord, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. And the little Greek word translated always here means always. And everything means everything. Basically, Paul says, we have a responsibility as followers of Christ to remain hopeful when all seems lost, because our hope is not tied up in anything that the world can offer. And his bet is when you do that you won't see the world as all is lost. And in this way, we plug the drain of worry inside of our lives. But I'm sure, if you're anything like me, you're thinking, so how do I do that? How do I actually do that? Well, here's my suggestion. And listen, you don't have to be a follower of Christ to do this on a surface level. In fact, I believe and I've seen in my life, when I take a good look at all of the good that is in my life, I actually stop worrying about all the bad. And when I see how much I have going my way, I stop worrying about the things that didn't go my way. When I count my blessings, right, I realize how blessed I am, not just #blessed. And I start to act like it. So whether you do this as an individual or as a family, or you do it both, I want you to sit down and I want you to list out all of the good things in your life. Maybe just begin a running list. And for those of you who are Christians, followers of Christ, I want you to spend time thanking God for those things each day this week for what He's done in your life. And if you're not a Christian, my hope as you do this is that you may just start to see that God is behind some of those good things in your life. And I think if we do this together, we can help our world to live life on fuller tanks during this season and all throughout this year.
It's easy looking at a glass saying it's half empty. So many people trying to change who you are, who you wanna be. You've got to lift up your head, find the silver lining. Your time is coming. Oh, feel the daylight breaking. Oh, life is what you make it. We got a good life. We got a good life. We got a good life, good life, good life. We got a good life. Person that I am and the person that I wanna be. And I could spend my whole life dreaming and overthinking, missing all the beauty in front of me. Oh, feel the daylight breaking. Oh, life is what you make it. We got a good life. We life. We got a good life, good life, good life. We got a good life. Feel the daylight breaking. Life is what you make it. Good things are worth the wait, and you got a good life.